Oh, no, no. Goodbye.
Please unmute yourself if you want to say something else or ask a question. And okay. Take a moment to ground yourself with your feet. Feel your feet on the floor. And just notice, where are they on the floor? More heels, more toes? Do they feel pretty balanced? What's your forward to back lean like today? And then I'm actually going to take you down onto your back, and we're going to talk about this whisper layer of muscles for a moment. And so go ahead and lie down, legs up, legs on the floor if it's easiest, or legs up over your bench if you can do that. American McCoy, I need you to be quiet. Hey guys, did you hear me? Get in the car. Dad's waiting for you. Get out of here.
Bottom of the first, I need to turn my neck hard, the lower it gets.
Okay.
You can. You can have it anywhere you want.
But I'm not. I don't.
Dad, is that chocolate?
Okay. So come on down, lie down, legs up. And the first layer of muscles that I'd like you to find are actually going to be in your neck. So I want you to find your deep neck flexors by gently taking your fists and putting them underneath your chin, and then being able to press your chin down towards your neck without it really moving. So you're creating kind of a closed kinetic chain or an isometric. So fists under your chin, and then gently press your chin down. Now that does two things in your neck. One, it activates the muscles that are the deep neck flexors, that are the muscles you should use when you pull your head off the floor. But most of us don't use those muscles. It also opens up the nerve pathways between the vertebrae that power muscles in your whole upper body, arms and thorax, all of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cervical nerve pathways. So let's do at least 10. So fist under your chin, tuck your chin down, press, open those nerve pathways, and release. Now remember, these muscles can be activated in that bit of a whisper. So it doesn't have to be a hard press. In fact, if you do the hard press, you're much more likely to find the sternocleidomastoid, this bigger muscle on the side. And these deep neck flexors find them with that gentle activation, pressing down, thinking, visualizing of nerve pathways in your neck, opening and releasing. Press, release. Keep going. Maybe you feel a shoulder that needs to adjust because suddenly you opened up a nerve pathway to some muscles in your back. Maybe just laying down here on the floor lets that rotation come out of your body. Good. The next muscle in this whisper map is your diaphragm. So I want you to just place your arms out to the side and breathe. Let's take 5 full breaths. And the diaphragm works like a vacuum, coming up and moving down into your belly. And when that muscle activates, it's one of the muscles that crosses from the front to the back of your belly. It also sets your rib cage alignment, moves oxygen and carbon dioxide through your system. Last one, full breath in, full breath out. Good. Now maintain your activation of your diaphragm. Go to your pelvic floor. So these are the muscles that you would use to stop your pee, for instance. And I want you just to find them. And those muscles can activate, and they can work a little bit like an elevator. So they can activate like a Kegel, draw it in, and then draw the elevator up toward the second floor. And then see if you can control it as it moves back down. Not just a let go, but a control back down toward the basement. And then drawing back up toward the second floor. And then drawing back down. And the pelvic floor muscles, we know that some people with back pain have half of their pelvic floor that's shut down, maybe because their pelvis is rotated, or maybe because the nerves in their low back are clamped down, or for some reason they have half of the pelvic floor that is a bit shut down. So I want you to imagine the whole thing kind of like a donut, and that it gets to come together and draw up like an elevator, and then lower back down toward a basement, and then draw back up, and see if you can feel both sides of your pelvis deep in your body have some activation. And it may completely change the position of your pelvis and maybe how a hip is aligned based on that you find new activation in that space. And then that next layer of muscles is your transverse abdominis. And this is the one where if you poked your fingers right at the level of your belly button, you poked your fingers into your belly, and then you pushed out. So there was a tightening of your abdominal wall by pressing your fingers out so they can't stick into your belly. So use that as your cue, and that will generally align your rib cage and your pelvis a little bit more. But you should be able to breathe behind it. They say breathe behind the shield. So even with that little bit of transverse abdominis activation, and remember, it's a whisper muscle. So if you're clamping down and really using that, you're probably using some rectus abdominis also. And that is more of this beach muscle. It's a spinal flexor, and it shouldn't be so active right now. So just find that lower level. See if you can hold some tightness in your abdomen and still take a full breath. That's the challenge. Now see if you can do all of them just a little bit. Deep neck flexor, diaphragm, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis. And breathing. And then go ahead and place your feet on the floor and move into a pelvic tilt. So now we'll go a little more to these bigger moving muscles. Now that we have established some good stability, we can do some gentle movement. We're going to keep all of those muscles active in each of our moves today. Good. Onto your hands and knees, and go ahead and do some cats and dogs. So as you go into your rounded cat pose today, feel, you can even take one hand if you feel stable enough and put it underneath your chin and gently press your chin down into that hand to activate deep neck flexors as you go up in your cat pose. And then come down, go ahead and look up and find those same muscles, deep neck flexors and flexors of your spine. Rectus abdominis has to work now. Shoulder blades come off your back and slide down. And just move with more awareness of those deep neck muscles. I was doing stuff yesterday holding a tennis ball between my chin and my neck so that I could keep those muscles working. So maybe we'll play with that another day. And then take it right into a bird dog. So hand leg opposite lifts. Have that little bit of tension in your pelvic floor, diaphragm, neck, and transverse abdominis. And extend your legs straight back. Pull your heel back. And as you think of that, we're trying to keep the pelvis level. So just push your leg back without moving anything else. Hand into a fist and then reach and hold. We're going to stay on this same side with some awareness of your neck, your transverse abdominis, your pelvic floor, and your diaphragm. Keep breathing. Then bring your hand and knee down and lift it right back up. We're going to do that 10 times. Bring it down, lift it up. And this is so we get capillary refill. So as your body starts to produce some lactic acid, it's getting tired. We're going to just give it some new blood and let it stay there a little longer. And this is how we begin to build endurance. Let's do 2 more of those. Down and sweep, lift, heel back, hand in a fist, and down and lift. And switch sides. Keeping your pelvis level, stay there. Push that heel back, hand in a fist. Some awareness of all 4 of those places. Neck flexors, diaphragm, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis. Bring it down, sweep the floor, lift. How is it on this side? Does it feel more challenging for some reason? Down and lift. Push that heel back, down, lift. 2 more, down, lift. Last one, down, release. Excellent. And cats and dogs one more time. Round and arch. Think about those muscles inside your body that cross from the front to the back. Pelvic floor and diaphragm. Psoas also crosses from the front to the back. And it's possible that these deep fibers of the psoas also are kind of part of this first layer of muscles. So come onto your back. And place your hands underneath your back. Underneath the small of your back. So you're maintaining some of that arch, that natural arch with your arms going underneath your back. Then bend your left leg. And we're going to find this right hip flexor. So first get in touch with all of those other muscles. Deep neck flexors. And just notice if there's a difference between the right and the left side of your shoulder. If it's difficult for one of them to internally rotate, you may just need to use one arm and set the other one by the side. But notice that that's happening also. If you can internally rotate both, then squeeze both underneath. Then find little bit of deep neck flexor. So chin down, just a whisper activation of that. Pelvic floor, diaphragm. And then as you lift this leg off the floor, lift your elbows off the floor, that transverse abdominis is going to be really active. So your belly muscle probably just really turned on. And you're just going to hold it there. Breathe behind the shield. So be able to take full breaths while you're holding that stability. And the gentle arch in your low back. Release that leg, switch sides, and lift. Find all four again. Deep neck flexor, pelvic floor, diaphragm, full breath. Now you're holding that hip flexor. That hip flexor is working. You're in hip flexion and you're supporting the curve of your back. So this would be like you're taking your leg forward in your gait. You're walking forward, but your back isn't rotating or moving extra. And release. Switching sides. Holding that. Neck, pelvic floor, diaphragm, transverse abdominis. Then hip flexor gets to activate and your elbows get to lift off the floor. And take 3 full breaths. And release. Excellent. Oh, I think we have one more on the other side. Sorry about that. Neck, transverse abdominis, diaphragm, pelvic floor, hold, elbows up, 3 breaths. Notice if the back of your neck wants to take over. Find that place, even if you need to put a hand under your chin again, to gently pull your chin down so that those deep neck muscles turn on and release. Those muscles, when I was in that training and people were lifting their head, almost nobody, and these were strong athletes, did it correctly. So being able to find those deep neck flexors, go ahead and do it one more time. Hands underneath your chin, and then just chin down gently, whisper level, chin down, and just find more length. There's some lateral neck muscles that can be part of this also. Just with that little bit of flexion, see if you can find a little bit more length in your neck. And maybe begin to just hover your head off the floor and then release it back down. Chin down, whisper level, lift, and release. One more time. And release. Good. Arms out to the side. Right into a reverse press. So now hopefully we've opened some nerve pathways in your neck. That would be really cool. And then see if you can do reverse presses, bringing your shoulder blades in toward your spine. These are level 2 muscles, or more like talking muscles, rhomboids. And they squeeze the shoulder blade toward the spine. Squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. They might even be level 3 muscles. I have to look. I don't quite have that map memorized yet. And I will see if there's a place that I could post some pictures, or I might have to draw some pictures of what these levels are. But you'll keep getting more of them. Squeeze your shoulder blades toward your spine, down and back. Good. Hands on your knees, anti-shrug your shoulders. So take your hands, so I had to bring my hands up. You could even bring your knees all the way up if you needed to, but feet still on the floor. And then shoulders away from your spine, pressing in toward your legs. That's going to be more serratus. That's definitely a level 2 muscle. So talking level, press down, anti-shrug, shoulder blades down and back, away from your ears. Find those muscles and release. Press your hands into your legs. I had to go up on my toes to get that, but I have a long torso. So some of you with shorter torsos will be easier. It'll be easier to find your legs that way. Short arms and long torsos make that hard. Anti-Shrug, shoulder blades down and back away from your ears. Give more space to open up. Maybe if you have an upper trap that's overactive, it gets to let go now as these middle back muscles, mid trap, lower trap, serratus, those turn on, taking the shoulder blade down, taking some of the angle out of how maybe it's tipped and releasing some of the pec. Excellent. Now interlace your fingers, pull your arms over your head, touch the floor, and back up. All the way over, all the way up. Does that feel different today? Now that you've brought your shoulder blades more into your middle back already before we did that? Feels different in my body. Remember to breathe. Fill up those lower levels of your lungs. Expand deep into your back. And that's good for pullovers. Let's go up on your toes, back on your heels, and just bring some movement into your feet and ankles, all the way up, all the way back. Shoulder blades just gently resting on the floor. All the way up on your toes, rock all the way back to your heels, pull your toes up, all the way up on your toes, all the way back on your heels. Feel muscles slide and glide through that space, the retinaculum at your ankle where the connective tissue is. That holds the tendons so that they can go around your ankle bone and not flip forward, but it also creates a tight space at the ankle for the slide and glide to move. And then go ahead and move your left leg out on the floor. And we'll go into these next layer of hip muscles. So glute medius and minimus, those are your internal and external rotators, as well as your deep six. So turn your leg all the way out as far as it will go and all the way in. Maintain that whisper level. So diaphragm, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis, little bit of neck flexion. Maintain the awareness of the whisper muscles while we add that next layer of talking muscles in your hips and pelvis. So some stability at your trunk so that there can be movement in this axial skeleton, or excuse me, movement in the appendages, in the appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton, your torso, is stable. Go ahead and switch sides. Let that leg go out. Right leg now, thigh tight. Find the muscles in the deep hip and pelvis. Switch first side again. Out and in. Taking the leg all the way out, pinky toe to the floor, all the way in, big toe as far as it will go so that you get internal rotation in that hip. All the way out, all the way in. What's your possibility for hip rotation in your body? See if you can notice where the greater trochanter is of your hip, where that femur bone is on the hip, and how that femur bone kind of parks into the garage of your hip bone, and then how it can move back and forth once it's in that hip. And then switch sides again. Out and in. And then bring that leg in, grab your block and place your block between your knees. Oh, there it is. And find your adductor. So Adductor Magnus, new layer. That muscle helps rotate the femur in and out. It also draws the legs toward the midline. So feel the awareness of neck flexion, whisper muscles all turned on, diaphragm, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis. Just a little mild stabilizing in your torso as you move the legs toward the midline. Find the adductor. And you may have to hold for a moment before you actually feel it. In some people, this adductor on one side turns on, takes a minute to turn on. Squeeze and release. If maybe the pelvic floor hasn't been active, so those whisper muscles aren't active, maybe the adductor had to turn on so much that it got tight and rigid, or maybe it shut down completely. Find where it is in your body. How do we get that adductor to just come online? Maintaining just a little bit of arch in your low back. Feet on the floor, knees bent. That kind of neutral pelvic position for you. And keep going around in your awareness. A little bit of neck, a little bit of transverse abdominis, a little bit of pelvic floor, a little bit of diaphragm, all active. That anti-shrug maybe in your shoulders, shoulder blades moving down and away from your ears, feeling the muscles in your middle back, mid-trap muscles. They help to stabilize the shoulder in that place. Those could be a little bit active here as well. Maintaining good alignment through your torso so that that adductor can do what it's supposed to do. Excellent. Release your block. Now we'll go more to release some of the sartorius. So that's a muscle that crosses the hip and the knee. This is more big mover muscles. It helps to move your leg like this to cross it over. So go ahead and hip flex, that's psoas. Rotate, we found those deep muscles in your hips already, and then just see if you can open that up. Sartorius coming across the hip, attaching to the knee, letting that leg be pulled to the outside. And that can be a much more precise motion if all those other levels of muscles are working, adductors, deep rotators, then that Sartorius can do its job to rotate that leg in the pelvis. And release. Second side, hip flexion, then deep rotators, bringing it over and open it up. Just feel how that feels to you today. Each of these layers of muscles have more precision or less precision. The first layer, those are proprioceptive muscles. They're constantly tweaking your position all the time. The second layer, they have proprioceptive capabilities too, but maybe less than the first ones. And the third ones, they don't really have proprioception at all. They just turn on or off. That's pretty much it. They're phasic. They just work or they don't work. So they're not toning quite so much. Go ahead and release. And then try your pelvic tilts again. Rock it back and forward. That's bigger muscles in your belly and in your back, rectus abdominis, lumbar erectors, more third level. But hopefully that feels much more smooth as those precision muscles have woken up a little bit to do that action. So the big movers can do it while all those other ones are already doing their job. Bottom of your feet together, allow your knee to drop out to the side into a frog. So again, Sartorius going out. These deep muscles in your hips being able to open, maybe adductor being able to release a little bit here. And if you can reach your hands to your legs, go ahead and do that little anti-shrug, hands on your hips, right at the crease of your hip, and then pull your shoulders down into your middle back once again by finding the muscles that work in your middle back, and just see what does that do to what your pelvis wants to do. Having a little pressure from your hands onto your legs, feeling that middle back around the base of your shoulders, mid-trap muscle. Hold it. Let's release it again and let the capillary refill happen, and then press again, building a little bit of endurance into that mid-trap. Oh, I just felt my arm shift rotation. Breathe. And one more time with your arms, release, and then press again, hands pressing into your legs if you can reach them, feeling your middle back engage. And draw your legs in, rolling to your side, and coming up to seated. Let's go ahead and try a twist. So cross the right leg over your left. All of that work that we just did in that hip, that has to work even as we do this. So feel a little bit of neck flexion, torso, diaphragm, pelvic floor, all working there as this leg comes up. Then as you take your right hand behind you, feel that base whisper layer of muscles. Now we're into your obliques. Your obliques are twisters. They're talking muscles. They're that level 2. So in your torso, your rib cage moving over your pelvis, those muscles need a little bit more work. You can use your hand against your knee to gently create a little resistance. And that back shoulder also coming around, that mid trap is working. Find that anti-shrug. You can pull that shoulder blade down toward the floor a little bit here. And breathe. Find those obliques. One side has to lengthen. One side contracts as it pulls your spine around. Multifidus in the back. Also a rotator. And switch. Releasing that leg. Find your whisper muscles again. Flex. Transverse. Hold it up there. Cross the leg up and over. Feel both butt cheeks down on the ground. Then in your back, mid-trap. Multifidus. That's low in your back. I don't think we actually really have good awareness of that muscle, but we'll talk about it anyway. We'll wake it up. Shoulder blade moving down. Obliques twisting. Find your breath. Feel the breath move in and out of your body in this position. And untwist. And come onto your belly. And you decide what's okay for your body. If you need a towel or a pillow underneath your belly because this much extension is a lot for your back, then please put it there. If you're okay with this much, just fold your hands under your forehead for a moment and just let's do 5 deep, full breaths into your back, letting the rib cage just gently tuck under since the floor is holding you. And move the breath more into your back body and then release it completely and let that little bit of curve, extension, just come into your back. Really release your shoulders. Release everything right now. Let it gently move without resistance. Maybe switch your hands. If one hand was down on the floor, switch to the other one just to change that angle slightly. Couple more deep breaths. And then take your left leg and begin to curl it up. Have a little bit of stiffness today as we move. As you start to pull on your hip flexor and your quad, I want you to keep some stability, whisper level of stability at your trunk so that there is a lumbopelvic rhythm. There is some movement of the pelvis and the low back as you bring your leg up, but not so much that it like lifts way up as you do that. So whisper level, pelvic floor, diaphragm, transverse abdominis, active with full breaths still being able to happen. And just take that leg into a hamstring curl up and down. And then switch. And notice the difference between the two sides. Can you maintain, can you think of that side of your pelvic floor even right now as you bring that leg up and down? What's happening at the level of the pelvic floor? Does it just want to go somewhere with it? Is it working? Is it a little bit active? Good. Now let's go for rotation this way. Bend the leg, slide your knee out, drop your ankle toward the floor. Big hip rotation. So torso stabilized, not hard stabilized, but whisper stabilized while you let that hip do that rotation. Then bring it in, release it down, and switch sides. Right leg comes up toward your butt. That pelvic floor, diaphragm, transverse abdominis, all active as you bring the leg out. Let the hip do the full rotation. And just notice, is there some tightness in that hip? Has that hip been rotating well, or has the hip socket and the leg been joined together for some reason? Maybe this whisper layer wasn't working so well. And so those second layers, those less precise movers, were trying to do double work. Right leg again, up, out, down, or whichever one you did first, in, and second side, up, out, up, out, in, down, up, knee wide, maintaining that whisper level of control with your torso so the hip can do that rotation, and up and release. One more each side. If you have any pain with this rotation, how could you modify it so it would be a pain-free movement? Would that be more pillows under your belly, less of a rotation in the hip? Don't go to the place of pain. Go to the place where you have free movement, and then work there. I don't know what that is exactly for you. You have to be mindful and take care of your body that way. Up onto your hands and knees, once more around an arch. All the way up, all the way down. Think of your neck flexors here. As you go into that, how is it if your hand was under there and you were gently pressing your chin into your hand? Where are those deep neck flexors that open up the space before your head slides forward? All the way up where the nerves travel in your neck. And then as you come down, let your middle back go and look up. Neck extensors and deep neck flexors. Downward facing dog pose. Go ahead and bend your knees today. Take it up there. We're breaking that whole front line of fascia by bending the knees, but that's okay. We'll prioritize the spine since it's early in the morning. Press your heart through your hands down toward the mat and just feel, where are your hips? Find your breath. Let your heels begin to work down toward the floor, letting some release happen in the calves. You can even go up and down a couple times and just feel your ankles move. And then begin to walk your feet toward your hands. and come up to standing. Standing, spread foot, forward fold. Go ahead and use your inside leg muscles to hold on. Bend your whole body over, down toward the floor. Let it release. Let your shoulders go. Hold that steadiness with your legs, and then work yourself over to one side. Big full breath. And over to the other side. Breathe. Back to the center. Strong legs. And then use your butt muscles to pull yourself back up. Nice. Walk your legs in. Let's do a couple hip hinges. So from this big joint right here, let your body go over, forward. So that lengthens the lever of your back. Feel your hips and then push your hips back through to get back up. Find your big hip muscles. Take it back again, back, and lift. Press your hips through. Hip hinging, knees bend, hips bend, then butt muscles press back through. Down and press. One more, hip hinge and up. Good. We'll do a few of those rotations again just to get those deep hip muscles active. So use your block or the wall. Standing on your right foot, left leg out. Find these. So whisper muscles have to stay intact. Pelvic floor, deep neck flexors, transverse abdominis, back muscles, a little bit active here. Then second tier muscles, glutes, rotators, they're working to pull you open, hips up to the ceiling, and then back to level. Open it all the way up in like an airplane. Squeeze this glute. Feel the femur have to rotate in the hip socket. All the way up. And down. Let's do two more on this side. Up. And down. And up. And down. Switch. Taking your leg up there. Find all these deep neck. You can even use your fist to gently press if you need it. Pelvic floor. Diaphragm. Transverse abdominis. Mid-trap. So anti-shrug. Shoulders down and back. And then rotate and open. Down and lift. Nothing's moving in your torso. Nothing's moving in your back. It's just between the leg bone and the pelvis. Everything else is just stabilizing. Ten squats with me. Feet at whatever feels right to you for your squats. And then let's go hands behind your head. We'll just take it open. Open up the thoracic back one more time. Bending down there. All of those other muscles intact. Whisper muscles. Neck, pelvic floor, transverse abdominis. Then feel how low your body wants to let you go. That's right where, that's plenty. And then press it back up. Down and up. Hip hinging. Awesome. And then just stand there for a moment. Close your eyes. And just feel your weight and compare that to how it was at the beginning. Feel maybe how your arms are moving or how your body can move. Hopefully, that feels a lot more stable and free at the same time. Please find your spot for getting quiet for a moment. Lie down, sit down, legs up over your block. You choose. And as you come into that position, feel your clothes resting on your body and your body wherever it's touching the floor. Notice that. Allow breath to move through your body. And just have awareness of that breath. Notice thoughts if they begin to arise. The mind is part of the awareness. It's part of the field of awareness, and it likes to do its job, which is think. And you can begin to notice space between the thoughts, and the thoughts will come less frequently. Notice the space of awareness that exists here. That's like a field of awareness. It even expands beyond your body. Your body is part of it. But feel the big open space of awareness. And when you notice your mind doing what it does, acknowledge it and go back to the breath. Go back to space. Or sound. Or anything that helps be here now. This awareness is beyond time, beyond your body. And it's always available. Just rest in this awareness. There's no doing, No perceiving. There's just being. And as you experience this expanded form of awareness, gently become aware of the heaviness of your body again. And the sounds and sensations that exist in this moment. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Of course, if you'd like to stay here and expand that time, please turn off your computer. If you'd like to take a moment to visit, then please do that as well.
Kyra,
Yeah.
when I'm thinking about the pelvic floor and I'm inhaling and exhaling, am I thinking that the pelvic floor rises with which of those parts of the breath?
I think you could do either of those. That
Okay.
I don't know exactly if it moves with the diaphragm or without.
Okay. Cool.
I think any awareness and activation of that, I'm recognizing in my body. So my right knee is the knee that has had the injury, and this awareness practice has made me notice that both my transverse abdominis and my pelvic floor on my right side have virtually been shut down. And when I find them and activate them, there's like clicks and pops in my knee and then no pain. So it's been pretty cool to be like, wow, when that allows the stability, this rotation that I'm constantly working on trying to get out of the leg just comes out all by itself.
Cool. Thanks.
Super
This was
cool.
really fun. I really enjoyed the neck whisper muscles.
Yeah, aren't those amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to learn still, I think, about it, because I just think that you can see my neck, that these big ones take over for so many people, and these deep neck flexors just don't really know how to activate. And if we have done things like looked at our cell phone and we've used the second tier or third tier neck muscles, what we get is a shear force in the vertebrae in the neck, and we can see it there. Lots of people will take still x-rays of their neck and it will look pretty okay, but when they take a moving x-ray, there's like a huge clunk that happens, and you can see the shear force go over, and of course that's where that person has pain, but you can't see that in a still picture unless maybe you see some inflammation. But so let's say someone has had a mild whiplash or something like that, they take a still x-ray, it looks fine, but when they take a moving x-ray and they're like, oh no, you've shut down 2 levels of layers of muscles in your neck and you're completely trying to flex your neck forward, which you probably do a lot of times with these third level of muscles, which are crossing multiple joints in the neck, and then you get way more movement than is supposed to be happening at different levels of those vertebrae.
Wow.
So we'll do a lot more, and I'll keep learning about how to find these, because I think they're really important. And we have to manage, how do we find deep neck flexors and also maintain curve in the neck? So this is also a trick.
Okay. Thank
Kind
you.
of like strong abdominals with lumbar spine curves. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So
thanks,
we'll-
Sarah.
Yeah, how'd that feel for people? Do people experience, I mean, that it's subtle, more subtle work in some ways, but it feels like also big in terms of how joints move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand, but I'm going with it.
Great.
At the end, my whole body felt lit up. So definitely when I stood up and just was feeling into it, just alive.
Yay. Awesome.
Thanks, Kyra.
Thank you.
so much, Kyra. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Is Letty still there? Is Letty still on?
I think so. Yeah, she's on there.
Letty, I met somebody who used to work with you. No, can't hear me.
She can hear you, I think. There we
Yeah,
go.
I can hear you.
Oh, did you, her name is Janet Ritchie.
Oy.
No?
There have been so many people through that bakery
Hundreds.
in 32 years.
That's a
Oh,
lot.
People.
oh.
You don't remember them all?
Some on purpose, I forgot.
I know the feeling.
You guys are back from Mexico, I guess.
No, they're still there.
Are you still there?
Oh, look. There's the water.
Is it getting warmer? You're not in a hoodie anymore.
It's getting warmer. Yeah,
Delightful.
just. It's perfect now.
Nice. Cool.
Kyra, I
Yeah.
felt like I could twist better than I've ever twisted before.
Ooh, cool.
I also felt like an added motion, especially when I concentrated on the pelvic floor.
Yep.
And like things that were feeling just fine all of a sudden started to hurt.
Huh.
I mean, it's not like it was like real pain. It was just like, whoa, that added a whole
Something.
dimension. I think I missed the diaphragm instructions, but I got the transverse, the pelvic, and the neck. And so I was working with those three, especially, and hoping the diaphragm follows.
Diaphragm is just your breathing muscle. So being able to make sure that you're getting not just chest breaths, but full expansive breaths in your rib cage.
Breathing while laying down could really feel that back moving too. That was
Good.
cool. Yeah,
Yay. Awesome. Cool.
very
Well, we'll
cool.
get to more second tier muscles a little bit more to next week.
Hey,
Okay,
everybody.
have a great day.